In this video, we're going to talk about sidechaining. Sidechaining is when one parameter controls the behavior of another parameter. We're going to start by looking at what happens when you combine different modulators together, and then I'll introduce sidechaining. So we have a new sound here. We're going to pick a waveform. How about this modern talking one? Great. Let's add a comb filter. A comb filter has a very recognizable sound. And when I sweep the pitch, you can hear what happens. So that's the sound of a comb filter. Let's have the pitch of the comb filter controlled by a modulator. We're going to start with a stepper. So we'll take modulator 5, change it to a stepper, and let's just draw in a little random pattern here. All right. Let's drag the stepper up to the pitch and hold down our mouse and set a range. And now we'll hear the stepper affecting the pitch of the comb filter. So all I'm doing here is setting the minimum and maximum pitch that the stepper will affect. So at the low end of the stepper, it'll be at the low end of the range. At the top of the stepper, or the high end, it'll be at the high end of the range. All right, I think we've got that under control. Now what we want to do is add a second modifier. In this case, we'll use number 6, the LFO. And we'll add that to the pitch so that now both the LFO and the stepper will be modifying the pitch. Let's set a range. And you can hear the LFO operating on the pitch. The stepper is still active. And then finally, let's add a performer. And we'll just use one of the presets here. Remember, you can define your own performer and stepper presets. And we'll again set a range. And you can hear the performer's effect on the pitch. So we have 3 modifiers all operating on the same element here, the same pitch element of the comb filter. Now let's take off the performer and the LFO. And now we just have the stepper active. So what I'm going to do is turn on sidechaining. And to do that, I just click on the SC, and you'll see it turns white along with the 2 dashes. And what we're going to do is define a control to affect how much the stepper affects the pitch. Let's use number 2 here. And I don't have to hold my mouse button down. In fact, it doesn't even work for sidechaining. I'm simply going to use that second macro control to affect how much the stepper affects the pitch. I need to turn this dash to an arrow. It can be either up or down. Let me show you the difference. If it's up, the more I turn the macro control, the more effect the stepper will have. So when I have it all the way up, it's behaving as it did without the sidechain. But as I lower it, the range of the pitch, or the effect of the stepper, is actually smaller. Now if I flip that arrow, it will work the opposite way. When it's all the way to the left, it will have the most effect, and all the way to the right, it'll have very little effect. Let me give you another example of sidechaining. Once again, we'll get a new sound, and this time I'll pick a different type of waveform. There are so many to choose from, and they all are a lot of fun to play with. we'll just choose the formant saw. And now we'll take a performer and we'll drag it up to our amplifier module. Now the amplifier module has a sidechain input that you don't have to turn on. It's always on. And as long as I put something in there, I'm now controlling the envelope of the amplifier. So it creates a gating effect. And this effect, of course, can be synced to your tempo as it is now. I can use that same performer to control my wavetable position, or I could use a different modifier if I wanted to. So now both my position in the wavetable and my amplifier are being controlled by the same modulator. So now that we've got this gating effect, let's turn on sidechaining for the wavetable position and drag an LFO up there. And now we're determining how much the performer will affect the wavetable position. So those are some examples of how to use sidechaining in Massive. Whenever we have a control that we want to add sidechaining to, we click on the SC and we take the control we want to modify and use the arrow to turn it up or down. Remember, we always have to set a range, but for the amplifier module, we don't have to turn on sidechaining. It's on automatically.